We are entitled to experience a sense of completeness across all aspects of our lives, free from the notion that our identities or roles are in constant competition for our attention. And it's unfair to expect ourselves to excel in both our professional and personal spheres separately, as if our worth is dependent on equal and independent contributions to each. Achieving a harmonious blend of work and personal life is a wonderful concept that can be customized to align with your individual needs, aspirations, career, and domestic responsibilities. It doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing scenario, and there will be moments that may seem unbalanced, and that's perfectly all right. That's actually part of it. Welcome to your Landlord Resource Podcast. Many moons ago, when I started as a landlord, I was as green as it gets. I may have had my real estate license, but I lacked confidence and the hands-on experience needed when it came to dealing with tenants, leases, maintenance, and bookkeeping. After many failed attempts, fast forward to today, Kevin and I have doubled our doors and created an organized, professionally operated rental property business. Want to go from overwhelmed to confident? If you're an ambitious landlord or maybe one in the making, join us as we provide strategies and teach actionable steps to help you reach your goals and the lifestyle you desire, all while building a streamlined and profitable rental property business. This is your Landlord Resource Podcast. Well, hello there, landlords, and welcome to our podcast. My name is Stacy, and I'm here with the yin to my yang. His name's Kevin. Today we're veering off the quote-unquote educational path with a direct regard to rental properties and talking about something that we consider a constant work in progress, and that's finding balance between work and non-work life for us as rental property owners.
You mean what we do isn't normal?
No. I mean, for us it is, but it really shouldn't be. Work-life balance has been a buzzword for some time now. And I know that Kevin and I can admit that the pandemic changed the way we do things. Some for good, some not so much. And for starters, we did a really deep evaluation on our finances.
Now, that's one of the good things, right?
Yeah, it's very good to know where you sit financially. So this deep evaluation was, where we are now and where we hope to be in 5, 10, 20 years. As we have mentioned before, we are no spring chickens. I'm in my 50s. Kevin's in his mid-60s. So we are looking retirement right in the face.
Well, ideally, we'd love it if we were already in the retirement phase of life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I would love that too. But I think that's the case for a majority of people that are our age.
And we won't go deep into it, but basically, both of us were not very careful with income earned. I won't say we were foolish, but we were not aware of really where the money was going. We certainly were not tracking how much we spent on non-essential goods and services, or really worrying that much about credit card debt.
We aren't talking about a huge sum of debt, but debt is debt, and when money has to go towards paying off a nice dinner, or 2, or 3, and a case of wine that we bought on a whim after heading up to the wine country an hour away, there was nothing left to invest or save into our retirement. For us, our retirement funds mostly consist of growing our rental property portfolio, and we were in no position to do this with the carefree mindset that we were exhibiting.
So we got real with our finances. We wrote down every dollar we spent and evaluated what we could stop spending money on and what gave us enough joy that we wanted to keep it in the budget. We read books and listened to professionals to get tips on how to turn things around. And by employing the method of consolidating our debt and then diligently working to pay it off, we were able to pretty much clear our credit card debt in about 2 years.
Yeah, paying that last card off was certainly a reason to celebrate.
It was.
It was so exciting. It was at this point where we felt confident in creating an actionable plan for our retirement. We knew we enjoyed the income we presently were earning and took our time figuring out an amount we felt would be comfortable for us to live off of when we were no longer working. And I will say, we are active in terms of family relationships. As the boys were all settling in their own lives, living around 8 to 10 hours away from us, we started to think about them and what was coming next on their end and what that would look like for us financially.
Basically, what Stacy is saying is that we want to be able to be active in their lives and the lives of possible future generations. So as the boys start to settle down, we are considering if we can pick up rental properties in the areas where they live so we can visit them and spend time with any grandkids that come along too. We needed to get ourselves into a position, financial and otherwise, that we will have the capability to enjoy the next phase of our lives.
I imagine most have a goal to create a lifestyle that allows them more free time and flexibility to enjoy life a little more and work a lot less. The problem is that we got so hyper-focused on this goal that we stopped doing many of the things that we enjoy. There was no balance and burnout was coming in strong. So not only do we have kids that we are close with and are present in our lives, we have aging parents that are needing more and more time and assistance, and family members who lean on us for various forms of support as well. And then throw in the day-to-day tasks of running our rental properties, starting up this little side hustle of Your Landlord resource that has morphed into nearly a full-time gig, and working to scale and build our rental property portfolio.
And not to mention that we want to focus on ourselves and our physical health as well. We not only want, but need to work on eating healthier and getting in some regular exercise.
Yeah, well, our well-being tends to get tabled much of the time. So each morning we get up and we grind all day. We have weekly, sometimes daily meetings about what tasks are priorities and what we can table. We discuss where we stand financially and what is next on the list to get to our goals. Trying to find balance and follow the path to our goals was and still is a constant struggle. We have way too much on our plate. So what? We tell the kids we can't help them move? Tell our parents, fix your own garage door, but hey, stay off those ladders. These are the things that we want to be able to do.
And I will add that we've had several very serious conversations about shutting down Your Landlord resource. There's not a huge financial draw on us, but more that it takes a lot of time to create and manage an online business. So then what do we give up on? We could have a property manager run our local properties, but then that costs money and we'd have to adjust our income to afford that fee each month. And honestly, for now, we can do it better.
Maybe we just need to clone ourselves. Okay, so we've given you some background information on how we got where we are today. But, we're like everyone, we're a constant work in progress. And if I'm being honest, and I know we are blessed and we're very fortunate to be able to work for ourselves at home and not have to get up and go into a work at a 9 to 5, but I was getting to a breaking point. No matter how hard we tried to plan and create schedules, they just never worked. And you'll hear a lot of influencers in the investment property arena talk about how you have to get up at 5 a.m. You have to journal. You have to meditate. You have to exercise. Only go on your phone and check social media 15 minutes 2 to 3 times a day. Make sure you're reading one chapter of a self-help or a business book before you go to bed. And who are you if you don't analyze 10 properties before 10 a.m. or put in an offer every day until one gets accepted? They imply you have to grind to succeed.
Yeah, until you burn out and find yourself in the fetal position wondering where your damn life went and was it all worth it? Now, to some, maybe it is. Some are very successful with this rigid mindset. But for us, this is not reality. Mentally, we were not capable of managing at that level. We started to get so hyper-focused that there was very little me or us time.
Yeah, and when it gets to the point where we have to start to schedule in time for us to spend together, that's where I draw the line. We want to be able to take the dog for a walk on the beach and not feel like we need to consult the schedule to see if there's any time. But how do we make that time? So let's get back to the term work-life balance. What does that mean for you? And is it even possible to find balance when your life is in constant motion with varying degrees of responsibilities? So I'm a big fan of Jenna Kutcher, and recently I listened to a podcast that touched on this subject. She discussed instead of striving towards work-life balance, which implies one has to be constantly in motion to not let one side outweigh the other side, and thus in order for life to work or be stable, both sides must be balanced. That for Those who are self-employed or work in a from-home space should work towards integrating work into your life or vice versa, depending on your employment situation. She goes on to say that balance is not really achievable regardless of where your work takes place. If you've ever desperately tried to find balance in your own life and likely failed miserably, you know how hard it is to try and keep those scales even. Because here's the truth. All the important pieces of your life are never going to be equal. If we really look at it, the undertones of quote-unquote achieving balance are more associated with perfection than reaching a realistic goal that gives us full, impactful, purpose-driven lives. While the intention may have been good, the execution woke up something else in us. It's like we all forgot that balance is a moment, not a lifetime. For us rental property owners, this means instead of walking a tightrope and always trying to find balance, that we just basically try not to separate the two sides and instead merge them into one lifestyle. How can we do this? As defined, balance is an even distribution of weight enabling someone or something to remain upright and steady. Integration is defined as the act or process of combining one thing with another so that they become whole. One focuses on the pressure of maintaining steadiness, of staying upright no matter what, of keeping the weight distribution equal among the many different parts of us, while the other focuses on intertwining and weaving together the many parts of us to feel whole at all times.
I think a lot of what you just said depends on the season of life someone is in. Now, someone who is in their late 20s or early 30s that is single, living on their own, and really has no one to answer to other than their employer, can likely easily find balance and may not have multiple responsibilities or areas of their life that have to intertwine. They probably have time to spend on what they enjoy when they are not working. On the contrary, those who have a family with kids, say in the 10 to 12 age range, may have several extracurricular activities like sports or something in the arts, and they may struggle to find the time to spend on themselves and balance work, family, sustaining a household, and personal goals. Or like us, where the boys are all grown and now out of college and essentially independent, but they still lean on us for advice and guidance, and sometimes it's for things that aren't so great. So emotionally, there's the worry and concern that comes in from time to time. And then there's the parents. We are both blessed that our parents are alive and well and for the most part healthy, but starting to need more and more help and assistance. Being in their 80s and 90s in this era of everything being electronic is a lot for them. For us to jump on a video call is nothing. For the elderly, where doctors now want to do appointments over Zoom, it's much more challenging. So we find ourselves having to plan our time around them as well.
Yeah, we're definitely the sandwich generation, and we are in between our kids still being young enough to need some level of care and our elderly parents needing more and more care. And I know if they listen to this and they hear us calling them elderly, they're going to be pissed. But
yeah, right. So regardless of where you are in your cycle of life, there is really no one-size-fits-all solution here.
All right, so let's start with the areas that we need to work on. And I think you would agree that perfectionism is an issue for me.
Oh, man, do I. You put so much more effort into stuff than anyone I know. It's not bad that you want things a certain way, well, most of the time, but you just can't stop until you feel it is perfect.
Unfortunately, yeah.
And how's that working for you?
Not well.
Right. Is this more of an issue of you like things to be done to perfection, or that you want others to see and think everything is perfect in our lives? You know, that our lives appear perfect?
I think it's a little of both. I like a clean home, and I'm way more relaxed when the house is clean and tidy. When the house is a mess, I really do have trouble ignoring that. But I think I've calmed down quite a bit when it comes to what I do for others. When it comes to property management, being perfect doesn't serve anyone and only leads to disappointment in others when they, 1, don't appreciate your perfectionism, or 2, can't live up to your standards. Like I've said before, I like to show our units when they're really clean. So when we go in for inspections and that unit is filthy, it's really hard not to get pissed. And unfortunately, when it comes to how I treat myself, perfectionism isn't even on the spectrum. I definitely put my needs last. A lot of what we do is manage overwhelm. Whatever need is most important at any given time gets our attention. This is not horrible, and we're lucky to have the freedom to be able to work in this way, but it's not healthy either. And often we find ourselves spinning our wheels, resulting in our productivity being non-existent. But I'll say that when we do have to focus, we do.
All right, let me jump in here and tell everyone that twice in the last couple months, we have taken more than 2 weeks off in a row. Once when our son graduated from college and we did a road trip back from South Carolina here to California. And again, just recently, we traveled to Europe for, about 15 days?
I think both trips were 15 nights each, so that's 30 days of vacationing in 2 months' time.
And when I say off, I mean on vacation, enjoying the sights, spending quality time with our family, maybe checking in on work stuff, 5-10 minutes a day. We had no choice but to work ahead and get everything all set up with work, family, home, your landlord resource, even the dog. We worked our butts off. Stacy had pages of to-do lists, and we worked many 14-hour days just to be able to freely take that time off.
Yeah, it was a lot, and I really do not recommend doing 2 large vacations so close together.
But isn't that the life we want? To be free to travel and have long open time slots just to live?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I just don't think we're quite there yet.
All right, so how do we get there?
Well, sometimes we have a very dysfunctional relationship with time, but one thing we did do when we had to complete all of those tasks to be able to take time off was manage our time thoughtfully. We were able to really hone in on what was important to us and focus. For family and friends, we said no when we could, and we were very mindful of time management when making plans. For work, creating systems a while back was a huge plus for us.
Yeah, we had an opening in one of our units and barely had to spend much time at all on marketing and viewings. Unfortunately, we weren't able to place anyone before we took off, but placing the ad took minutes because we had already completed the photos and video beforehand, so everything was set. The ad itself is pretty much the same verbiage we use for all the units in that building, so all we had to do was update it. When people would inquire, we had several responses already typed out and ready to go, depending on what they were asking. This included our pre-screening questions we always ask to determine if this person is a good fit for our unit. We'll include a link in the show notes to download if you'd like to know what we ask. For viewings, we chose to employ someone to manage opening the unit, prepping everything, and showing people around. We provided them with the welcome packet we hand out, which includes all of the unit and building information, commonly asked questions, a hard copy of our application, and our contact information for prospects to reach out if they wanted to apply. We also created and gave our helper a breakdown of exactly what to show people and guidance on what they could and could not say or ask to stay compliant with fair housing laws.
And to follow up on what I said earlier about time management, we planned our visits to the property around other visits that we had in the area. Our sixplex is about 2 hours away from our home. We had a wedding to attend overnight just 30 minutes away from our complex, so we made plans to stop and do a little work, drop off the welcome packets, and make sure the unit was all ready to show when we were on our way home from the wedding. This saved us about 4 hours of driving time by doing this small bit of planning ahead of time. So be mindful of your time management skills. Think about what you can complete and map out your day. Another example is that Lowe's is in the same complex as our grocery store. Kevin can run and get supplies we need, and I will pick up a few items needed, and we kill 2 birds with 1 stone. How can you blend 2 responsibilities to manage your time a little better?
The next one is a tough one for us. We are both people pleasers, and saying no when asked to do something is not common for us. But to be able to integrate and manage your time better, sometimes no is the best answer. So I have a season ticket to watch the San Francisco Giants baseball team, and I go with a couple of buddies about once a month. Last month, I had to say no because the timing just wasn't going to work with our schedules. Now, I do realize that doing fun things like going to a ball game with buddies is important, but what is more important is to weigh the consequences of attending. If I had gone to the game, I likely would have put something for work or my family off to the next day. Well, when you're working 12 to 14-hour days to prep for a vacation, there really isn't time left to make that deferred time up. I know I was going to go to several more games this season, and I'm proud the decision to not go came pretty easily for me.
Yeah, I mean, being selective with who gets your time and saying no more often is something we really need to continue working on. All right, so let's talk about the last one and discuss productivity. This is an opportunity to define the lifestyle that you want. You do this by creating systems. For instance, when we got serious about our finances, we created a system of consolidating our debt into one low interest rate credit card. We had that low interest rate for 18 months, so we divided the balance by 18 and were very strict about paying that same amount each month.
Yeah, much like a car payment or a mortgage. We did not want to have a balance when that special offer ended.
Exactly. So now that the debt has long been paid off, we have a strategy of using that amount towards our investments. We have systems in place for being rental property owners as well. Owning rental property is not a hobby for us, and we treat managing our properties like the business that it is. We have developed it to be professional by creating criteria and developing systems and then streamlining our business so it's easy to maintain.
One way to do this is to use software where you can lessen the burden. In episode 15, we talked about all the software we use or are considering using to continue to develop and streamline our business. We discussed QuickBooks for bookkeeping and using property management software such as TurboTenant, Hemlane, or Doorloop. We will link them all again in the show notes. Also, know when to outsource. Like we had someone show our units on our behalf, what can you hand off to a team member to handle? Maybe for you, converting to using a property management company might be the best. Consider one who you can just use to place tenants and you can manage the day-to-day, or vice versa.
And also think about how you can lessen your burden at home. Can you hire a house cleaner once a month to clean or a landscaper to mow your lawn and give you a little more free time on the weekends? We use Instacart for grocery delivery when our weeks are jam-packed. And it may cost a little bit more, but for us, sometimes have to evaluate what's more important. Going shopping by myself or using that time to complete a more pressing task. And I tend to not impulse shop as much as when I go to the store on my own. I have a $30 coupon for Instacart. I'm going to link it in the show notes, so check it out if you're interested.
Yeah, good point about getting more help on the home front. Lastly, integrate or blend your family into the business. Operating rental properties is not always wine and roses, and sometimes you have to work weekends. Employ your kids to help so they can see what you do, and in the process, you can teach them a few things while spending time with them. If you want to learn more about the benefits of employing your kids, check out episode 5, where we talk about the tax advantages and more of hiring your children to work on your rental property business alongside you.
Listen, we both know our lives are nowhere near perfect, but I'm not a person who talks about the crappy stuff. It's no one's business, and I am one who has worked hard to not focus on negative energy. We have one son who, when life gets challenging, he always says, "It's fine. Everything's going to be fine." And think about it. In the realm of life, you need to stop and ask yourself, does it really matter? This thing that's got you all worried and overwhelmed or frustrated, does it really matter that much? How can you make it matter less, so that it's less time consuming and not sucking the life out of you?
Well, for one, work on setting up boundaries that will allow you to show up as your best self in every area. So, after always trying to find balance in our lives and feeling like failures most of the times, we have discovered integration is much easier to maintain than balance. But that's just us. Others may prefer to keep work and home life completely separated, and that's great too.
I guess it's best to think about what's more realistic, balance or integration. Do you prefer having pockets or separate areas of your life, or would you prefer to blend some areas so that it allows you to be 100% you when you're in each role and allow you the opportunity to zero in on what's more important to you at any given time? In what ways do you separate the different areas of your lives? Consider what needs your time and when, so you can remove the guilt and show up ready and present for each event or task, so that when you're at your child's soccer game, you can focus on them and not all the things that you have to do. What can you do to focus on and prioritize the right things that help you feel accomplished and allow you to feel less guilty about where you decide to focus? Remember, different seasons of life will require different needs from you. So take this opportunity or invitation to think about exactly what you want to continue moving forward.
The focus shouldn't be on tallying achievements or critiquing yourself based on the multiple identities you aim to represent. Instead, it involves discovering ways to authentically present your complete self in every situation, while remaining adaptable and resilient when circumstances allow. The goal is to blend the different aspects of your life, viewing them as teammates rather than adversaries. There will be heavier seasons for work, and there will be heavier seasons for parenting or family needs, and that's okay. It's not about keeping score, it's about paying attention. When you're knowingly spending your time and energy in the right places, the guilt of not doing enough goes away. It doesn't have a chance to derail you when you're taking an honest approach at being present where you're most needed. And the game changer is learning to trust yourself that you're making the right decision in the moment you're in.
Wow, that's very well said.
Thank you.
So, here are some final thoughts. We are entitled to experience a sense of completeness across all aspects of our lives, free from the notion that our identities or roles are in constant competition for our attention. And it's unfair to expect ourselves to excel in both our professional and personal spheres separately, as if our worth is dependent on equal and independent contributions to each. Achieving a harmonious blend of work and personal life is a wonderful concept that can be customized to align with your individual needs, aspirations, career, and domestic responsibilities. It doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing scenario, and there will be moments that may seem unbalanced, and that's perfectly all right. That's actually part of it. It's completely acceptable and entirely typical to experience periods in which one area of your life demands more of your attention and energy. Embrace opportunities and seek out supportive environments where you can seamlessly blend the various aspects of your life, allowing yourself to be fully authentic regardless of your actions, company, or your location. When you discover those invaluable moments where you feel unapologetically yourself, take note of them and commit to seeking out more experiences just like them.
Yep, it's a constant work in progress. Thank you so much for joining us and listening today. Our hope with this episode is that you can realize you're not alone in this big bad world of rental property ownership overwhelm. We are all working towards goals and trying to find a way to grow our real estate portfolios, but just not at the expense of losing sight of what other areas are important in our lives.
That's so very true. So I'm going to give you a quick recap. If you're feeling overwhelmed and trying to manage your own rental properties and dealing with life in general, try to work on the following. 1. Time management skills. What can you cut or hire out to give you more time on what's most important? 2. Set boundaries and say no more often. Be more selective on who gets your time. 3. Be strategic by creating systems to follow so all aspects of your life are streamlined and easier to maintain. And finally, number 4, be kind to yourself. Living life in a fulfilled manner takes a lot of tweaking. Don't try to do it all. Rather, work towards just trying to do your best in all areas of your life. Everyone, we really appreciate you listening today. Please subscribe or follow us on your favorite podcast platform. And if you could please share our podcast with other landlords and investment property owners, we would be very grateful. It helps us to move up the charts and get recognized by other DIY rental property owners. If you want the podcast link delivered to your email each week, we do have a free newsletter called Landlord Weekly that we send to all our subscribers. It comes out every Tuesday, It includes all kinds of tips, early access to our blogs, landlord-specific articles written by other industry pros, our favorite landlord products that we do use in our business, and the most recent link to this podcast. You can subscribe at yourlandlordresource.com/subscribe. That's yourlandlordresource.com/subscribe. We will also include the link to subscribe in the show notes. Thanks again. I am Stacy signing off with Kevin. And until next time, you've got this, landlords.